First question is actually, I was curious to know what you think about this aspect. Sex Pistols were like the voice of a generation, the riot of a generation. They were all frustrated. They use their frustration to build their songs. Do you think that nowadays we have missed these things? We probably use, not songs, but we use social media in the same way Sex Pistols use, the songs and their performance to bring on those aspects. What do you think?
It's very interesting. One of the interesting things for me in setting up the project was trying to explain to the actors, who were all, 20 or below, how much lack of stimulation there was for a 20-year-old when you were if it was 1976, and there was nothing, and it felt like you became your father very quickly, or you became your mother very quickly, too quickly, even before you'd ever had a chance to express whether you really wanted to be or not. There was no sort of route out, especially in working class culture. It felt like patterns were set for you, and so punk, and certainly the Pistols, who ignited it all, was a way of breaking that pattern and actually saying there were alternatives that were available to you, and that your life was your own to do with what you will, including, and this is what I think why it works so well, and it wasn't patronizing. It wasn't say do something useful with it. It's saying do what the fuck you like with it. Waste it, be vacant, be futile. It doesn't matter. It's yours. And I think that freed so many people from obligations towards their mother or father or whatever. It just helped you break free. And it was expressed in lots of ugly ways, the spitting and everything. But it was just a release, of literally bodily fluids. It was incredible, really. And nowadays, of course, and why it was so difficult to explain it to the actors, nowadays, they have constant stimulation coming at them through social media. Everybody's surrounded by it constantly, phones and Instagram and messages, and it's coming in. And so I don't know how it can play a part in modern life, but I hope people looking at it then will realise how vital it was to life then, especially for young people, yeah.
Especially for them, but not just for them, because I think it's universal. What I found is really contemporary story, because you actually, in particular in the beginning, you show the fragility, the vulnerability of these rock stars, that you imagine that they were flawless, or at least they didn't have fears on going on stage, and you actually show the opposite. So I think it's really important for everybody to remember we are human beings, we have our fragility. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's interesting, Eva, when you read the male versions of this story, it's all about how confrontational, aggressive, violent the characters were. When you read the female stories, like Vivian Albertine, Chrissy Hine, their versions, they see the vulnerability in Johnny, how sensitive he is. And they see it in Sid as well, how beautiful he was, how gentle and tender he was. And they show that side. So you can take advantage of that and try to show that in the series. There is the violence there, and the confrontation, and the contrariness, and the nihilism. But there's also a softer, gentler side as well. But because we are all vulnerable, no matter what we look like in the public eye.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Danny, the way that he likes to work is like very free. There's a very little that you never have a mark on the floor, or you don't know when the camera's rolling, or even where the camera is set up. And so for that reason, you just find the performance and you find the rhythm with the people that you're acting with. And for me, that felt like a brand new way of working, but an incredible way of working, and one that I try to take with me and try to kind of like ignore the sets that I'm on and just really dive into the scene that we're creating. So I've definitely I felt stripped of all the things that I knew as an actor. And I've learned some really valuable lessons from that.
Yeah, I think every time you dive into a character and into a world and take on a job, you learn a little bit about yourself, I think. You progress and as a human being. To figure out exactly what that is sometimes.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, I think there's a lot of keyboard warriors now, which sadly means there's less real life activism. I mean, I think there's still a lot of social movements that manage to come through, but yeah, perhaps there's not enough rioting in the streets.
We need more. I think technology has definitely social media. It's kind of herded us all into one group of trying to perhaps be similar to others instead of unique. And I think this show kind of focuses highly on the idea of individuality and being yourself, no matter how imperfect that may be.
I think it'd be a lot more interesting if we use songs again. I think nowadays there's a certain element of like fear almost. People are kind of afraid sometimes to say what they really think because they'll get shouted down or something, and which I think is a shame. I hope it could, the sort of pistol spirit could make a bit of a comeback in some way, shape or form.